Eu vou para o Keynote Speaker 1. Você vai para o Business. O Keynote está no 59 e você vai para o 58. Entendeu?
Nossa, você que sabe, hein?
A única coisa que eu estou escolhendo é o que eu vou entender.
Oi. Você não tem os dados do carro, por favor? Pode. Ok, aguardo, obrigada.
Vou iniciar o webinar do Keynote. Você está com Business.
Se você conseguir passar, Iá, você vem aqui me ajudar, porque essa pessoa aqui não...
Olá. Olá, professora Ana, consegue me escutar? Consegue me escutar? Hi, Professor James. Hi, Hi everyone, my name is Yasmin. I'm here at Semiagi. We're about to start a webinar. Professor James, are you used to webinar at Zoom? You know this platform? Okay, so the participants will be talking to you guys through the Q&A. They can make questions and you guys can answer them through the text, and they can make comments on the chat. So that's the only way that the attendants can talk to you guys. They can't allow their camera or their microphone. Yasmin. Absolutely. We can talk in English. Okay, so they're not already in this webinar, so I recommend you guys to wait for them. Okay. Yes, that's what I was about to talk about. So we are at a practice session. So right now you can try your presentation, your camera, your video. No one can see us for now. Yes, we can see perfectly. Okay.
Alô?
Yes, we can see it.
Alô?
Yes, it's amazing. You can try to go through the next slide so we can see if that's working. Yes, it's working.
Fernando, aqui para mim não está aparecendo. Está aparecendo a Bárbara, Wellington e Lidiane. Estou mandando.
melhor maneira possível.
Hello, can you hear me?
Muito bem.
Yes. Nice to meet
Então,
Nice to
Hello,
meet you
Chamindika.
too.
editor, tá certo? Vamos ouvir dessa vez
Nice
a
to meet
palavra do editor da
Pronunciation of
revista
your name. Chamindika.
Contabilidade e Organizações.
A minute, please.
Com vocês.
Fala, editor, a voz daqueles.
Okay. I need a minute for to open we panel. We are sorry. A lot of things here to make something. All a minute, please.
Com avaliação por
Quer
pares,
falar
em
em
slide
português e eu
review
traduzo?
e publicação em fluxo contínuo.
Por favor.
A RCO é uma publicação da
Deixa ela só
Universidade
esperar
Mantida,
deu certo. É que a gente estava esperando o Juliano. Juliano, vou te passar o host, tá?
de Ribeirão Preto, e também da Agência
Professor
USP
Chamindika,
de Gestão da Informação
it'll be just a minute
Acadêmica, a Agência
before we
Águia.
go on.
E, em primeiro lugar,
Thank
eu
you.
gostaria de agradecer à organização do
I'm
SEMEAD
Wellington.
por essa oportunidade. E a pergunta que nos foi
My name is
direcionada
Wellington,
é:
and
um
I'm in the
estudante
article.
de mestrado ou doutorado
Juliano, você tá aí?
priorizar suas publicações no Brasil ou fora do Brasil? Bom, muitas vezes essa
Juliano,
priorização
você tá me escutando, você tá como host.
de maturidade da sua pesquisa. E, além disso, é importante identificar e selecionar periódicos que sejam convergentes com seu manuscrito. E aí, para isso, converse com seus pares, com seus professores, com outros pesquisadores, para obter aí algum auxílio e orientação nessa seleção. Após feita essa seleção, verifique o escopo e o objetivo aí de cada periódico que foi selecionado. É importante verificar se a sua pesquisa se adequa ao foco da revista, se oferece um conteúdo de nicho ou um conteúdo generalista, se o alcance da sua pesquisa é regional, nacional ou internacional. Então, desse modo, uma série de fatores podem influenciar na busca de um periódico para submeter o seu manuscrito, seja no Brasil ou seja fora do Brasil. Mas, de um modo geral, para os estudantes que ainda não tenham experimentado um processo editorial, eu sugiro primeiro a submissão em periódicos nacionais. Bem, eu espero que eu tenha ajudado de alguma forma e aproveito aí para convidá-los a acessar o nosso site e conhecer um pouco mais sobre a Revista de Contabilidade e Organizações, a RCO. E também convido-os aí a submeter seus manuscritos à nossa revista. A todos, muito obrigada.
Muito bem, ótimo depoimento da editora, tá certo? Vamos assim formando a nossa opinião, e agora são praticamente 13 horas, hora do Repórter SEMEAD.
Repórter SEMEAD, a notícia daquilo que está acontecendo na conferência.
Repórter SEMEAD passando ao vivo na TV SEMEAD para informar as próximas atividades do evento. Iniciando agora às 13 horas o painel de impacto Cooperação Internacional para o Desenvolvimento e Organizações da Sociedade Civil no contexto da Agenda 2030 e Empreendedorismo de Impacto Social a partir das indústrias culturais e criativas, da professora Maria Elisa Huber e Jane Aparecida Marques. Keynote Speakers iniciando agora também. Palestras.
Welcome, Professor Weerakoon. Here is Giuliano. I'm hosting the section. We are just waiting the moderator. I would like to welcome you to the SEMEAD this year. It's a really great pleasure for us to have you here. I hope everything is fine there.
Yeah, it's great. It's my great pleasure to be with you all today. And yes, I'm doing very well. And I hope you all are keeping well as well.
We are just waiting the mediator, I think it's Professor Lidiane that is about to come. And then we will start the section.
No problem.
Okay, so just some minutes and we will be starting. What time is there, Professor?
3 a.m. on 26th of November.
Just for you to understand, here we are at 1 o'clock p.m. So
yes. Yeah, we are 14 hours ahead of Brazilian time.
Yeah. So thank you again, because you are doing a great effort for being here with us, and that's really, really important opportunity for us to have you here. And
já vamos fazer
that's my pleasure.
E dar uma olhada nessas atividades interessantes que o repórter Ítalo nos informou aqui. Antes disso, ainda há tempo para nós vermos aqui indicados a prêmio, dessa vez da área de estratégia. Vamos dar uma olhada.
Indicados ao Prêmio Academia SEMEAD.
Olá, neste vídeo vamos falar sobre o artigo intitulado Sinergia de Stakeholders e Desempenho de Empresas de Capital Aberto. Eu sou Fabrício Stocker, do PPGA FEA USP, junto com as coautoras professora Grace Sarturi, da Federal de Santa Maria, e professora Simone Baracati, da FECAP. Então, antes de iniciar com o trabalho, uma breve reflexão aqui sobre o nosso contexto. Esse artigo ele é fundamentado pela teoria, principalmente pela teoria de stakeholders, e essa teoria ela tem uma abordagem relacionada com um novo propósito, então, da gestão dos negócios e um objetivo maior para as empresas. Então, aqui a gente vai discutir que o propósito da organização, então, ela é criar valor para os diversos grupos de stakeholders e não somente maximizar o lucro para os seus acionistas. Dentro dessa perspectiva, nós temos, então, que muitos trabalhos têm sido feitos aí, então, discutindo como que essas relações, engajamento, priorização e saliência de stakeholders é percebido nessas empresas, mas ainda tem algumas questões não esclarecidas sobre como essa gestão superior voltada para os stakeholders, ela tem uma relação e impacto no desempenho das organizações. Então, tendo essa falta de modelos que explorem esses dois construtos, o objetivo, então, dessa pesquisa é analisar qual que é a relação dessa gestão superior de stakeholders e das ações organizacionais para a sinergia desses stakeholders no desempenho organizacional.
Olá, eu sou a Kelly Sacramento e eu sou autora do artigo Structure and Language, Effective Communication and Informing Consensus. Ele é um artigo resultado da minha tese de doutorado sob orientação do professor Adalberto Fishman. E o grande mote desse artigo é que a rotina de comunicação de objetivos estratégicos é muito importante para a execução da estratégia, mas que quando a gente vai olhar na literatura, muito se fala da ênfase, do impacto positivo, tanto do consenso quanto da comunicação no desempenho de uma organização, mas tem poucas evidências para atestar quais seriam esses elementos que estimulariam o consenso. Então, o que esse artigo se propõe é relacionar os elementos de retórica e de teoria da comunicação aos elementos de análise estratégica, de estratégia competitiva, para entender qual a influência do uso das diferentes estruturas retóricas e das palavras baseadas em imagem na formação de consensos estratégicos, identificando as relações de causa e efeito entre os diferentes elementos dessa comunicação interna dos objetivos estratégicos entre os funcionários.
Professor Wellington, just to check, who is mediating the section?
Vou apresentar esse trabalho aqui
Eu
junto com o
estou
professor
no
Davi,
lugar
lá
da
no nosso grupo de
professora
pesquisa
Cristina
cooperativas na FES em Ribeirão Preto.
Limonge.
Os nossos relacionamentos
Okay.
social.
So can we start now?
Yeah.
Shall we introduce
Por que essa pesquisa?
Professor?
Observando lá no nosso grupo essa consolidação
Okay.
do sistema
So,
cooperativo brasileiro. Teve
would
muitos
you like
casos
me
de
to speak
corporação,
Portuguese or
principalmente,
English?
entre cooperativas e crédito
Is
brasileiras.
there is probably having any issue with any sound? Is probably coming from you.
Não é brasileiro, já aconteceu em vários países do
Yeah?
mundo, mas ao mesmo tempo ele é pouco.
Let me just explain. Professor Wellington, eu acho que está tendo algum probleminha de som vindo do seu computador. Quando você entra para falar, ele está aparecendo para todos. Então, dá uma olhadinha para ver se tem, porque quando você procura conversar, falar com a gente, ele está aparecendo para todos aqui. Eu vou fazer o seguinte, eu vou introduzir a professora e a gente começa a sessão, tá bom? Sorry, Professor. We were just trying to find out what was going on here, but I think we can start with your lecture. If you may, we can start it now. I don't know if Professor Wellington wants to introduce you.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Tanta coisa legal acontecendo
boa
no
tarde.
nesse momento, tantos painéis.
Meu nome é Wellington Nogueira
lá,
e eu tenho o prazer de apresentar para o nosso próximo painel a professora Chamindika Weerakoon. A especialidade dela é a gestão de inovação e empreendedorismo internacional e empreendedorismo aplicado.
SEMEAD Tour, uma visitação ao vivo pela
A professora Chamindika também é uma palestrante universitária que ela pesquisa sobre início de carreira no campo do empreendedorismo e da inovação. Antes de fazer parte da Universidade Swinburne.
Professor Wellington, desculpe um pouquinho. Vocês estão escutando uma interferência de um som?
Eu estou escutando uma interferência que me parece ser do próprio SEMEAD.
Será? Dá uma olhadinha para ver se não tem nenhuma outra tela aberta no seu, porque acho que era o único áudio aberto. Pode ser que alguma outra tela possa estar interferindo na sua comunicação. Só dá uma verificada.
Tá.
Que não tendo, eu vou verificar isso com o IT.
Tá, ok.
Fecha todas as outras?
Fechei todas.
Tá.
Agora eu não estou ouvindo mais nada. Eu acho que é porque eu estava com a tela do SEMEAD aberta.
Pode ser. Deixa eu te dar lugar agora, desculpe.
Não, imagina.
Vamos lá.
Oi, gente. Começando de novo. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and to introduce you to Professor Chamindika Weerakoon, whose teaching expertise includes innovation management and international entrepreneurship and applied entrepreneurship. A professora Chamindika Weerakoon é uma palestrante universitária e que pesquisa a área de início de carreira no campo do empreendedorismo e da inovação. E antes de entrar para a Universidade Swinburne de Tecnologia, ela era uma palestrante associada da Universidade RMIT de Melbourne e uma palestrante nas áreas de empreendedorismo e gestão na Universidade Uva Welasa do Sri Lanka. Bom, são exatamente 3 horas da manhã na Austrália, agora, onde a professora Chamindika se encontra, e como que ela consegue, neste horário, ser tão bela e tão simpática, tão generosa e tão agradável. Então, é um prazer recebê-la aqui, professora Chamindika. It's a great pleasure to be with you here. Thank you for being up at 3 a.m. in the morning to be with us and looking so joyful and beautiful. And we're all here to listen to your beautiful presentation. Então, com vocês, professora Chamindika Weerakoon.
Right, let me share my screen with you first. Can you see the presentation now?
Yes.
Right, good to go?
Yes.
Right. Thank you very much for your beautiful introduction and also the sincere welcome. It's my great pleasure to be here with you all today. So, as I mentioned earlier at the Summit TV conversation, that I'm going to talk about the social entrepreneurship. And it is my privilege to be presenting about social entrepreneurship when Wellington Nogueira is hosting me, who is an Ashoka Fellow. And it is wonderful to hear. Right. So what I'm going to talk about today is the role of academics, public administrators, and industry specialists in developing a social entrepreneurial climate in an economy. Right. So this is my motto for today's presentation. We rise by lifting others. As academics and also public administrative specialists, and there might be industry specialists in the audience as well. And what we all are trying to do is to rise by lifting others. So I will be connecting my discussion to this quote by Robert Ingersoll, time to time, and let's see how we can really rise and then by lifting others in the society. So, outline for today's presentation. So, I'm going to discuss and share my knowledge on an area that is really growing well. It is a growing phenomenon, that is social entrepreneurship. So, I'll be first talking about what social entrepreneurship is about and why social entrepreneurship, basically, how social entrepreneurship helps public administration or public policy. And then how can we develop a social entrepreneurial culture in an economy? What is our role as academics, universities, and the researchers? And also, what is our role as public administrative officers? And also, what is the role of the industry? So those will be the key focus of this lecture. Right. What is social entrepreneurship? Social entrepreneurship is defined in various ways. When I did during my PhD, I did a literature review. I can remember that I came across nearly 40 definitions. So it's that this field is developing and large number of definitions are proliferating into the field. So there are various definitions in the literature. So one way to define social entrepreneurship is, it is a combination of the passion of a social mission with an image of business-like discipline, innovation, and determination. And then Austin et al., they define innovative approach to create social value, right, through entrepreneurial mechanism, which will involve in various sectors, including private sectors, public sector, and the not-for-profit sector, right? Now, although these definitions are there, as I mentioned earlier, there are a large number of definitions are proliferating into the field, given the infancy nature or the developing nature of the field. Now, this has led to some sort of a conceptual confusion within the field. And as a result of that, we see today that social entrepreneurship, the term of social entrepreneurship is often conflated with various other terms like social enterprise and social innovation. Very recently, my very first book was released by IGI Global. So that is theoretical and practical applications to social innovation. One of the reasons for me to write this book was also actually to define this conceptual or clarify this conceptual confusion. So in this book, I am talking about social innovation in 8 different perspectives. So what you see on the screen at the moment is a co-citation network that I generated through bibliometric analysis. What you can see again there is the situation within the literature. So you can see different knowledge clusters are there. So mainly there are 6 knowledge clusters. And the first knowledge cluster is actually where the social entrepreneurship discussion is going on. So social innovation and social entrepreneurship are to a certain extent overlapping, but they are different as well. Social innovation is a broader concept than social entrepreneurship. So what I am trying to show you through this co-citation network here is the positioning of social entrepreneurship within social innovation research. So not only social entrepreneurship, but also there are so many other perspectives that are talking about social innovation. So let's try to understand what social entrepreneurship is about. Why? We are going to talk about how we can develop a social entrepreneurial climate within economies. If we are to do that, we really need to understand what exactly social entrepreneurship is about, right? Now, as a result of this conceptual confusion, we could see that often the time social entrepreneurship is considered as something to do with social enterprises. Or sometimes there are some confined understandings and they think that social entrepreneurship means the activities of not-for-profits. So such kind of conflating situations can be seen. But actually, social entrepreneurship is something that is not limited to social enterprises or to public entities or to the private sector. No. Social entrepreneurship can emerge at any of these 3 sectors or sometimes in the next or at the nexus of these different sectors. On the other hand, we have seen that social entrepreneurship is often conflated with social enterprise. So social enterprise is an organizational form. So we cannot define social entrepreneurship by the organizational form because it can take place, so it can emerge in any form of organizational settings. So social entrepreneurship has to be defined by the process that is involved within it and the outcomes that it generates. Let's have a look at what it is further so that we can really understand where the policy, social policy should be driven towards. Right. In order to clarify this, I would like to draw your attention to the traditional way of defining the 3 sectors of an economy. So as everybody knows that there are 3 sectors: private sector, voluntary sector, public sector, right? So traditionally, these 3 different sectors had their own specific tasks to be done. And originally, for example, private businesses utilize markets to exchange goods and services for profit, and they are considered as drivers of productivity and innovation. When we talk about the public sector, we understood public sector's role as responding to market failures. What is market failure? Market failure occurs when the private sector innovation's cost is higher than what is expected, what is able to be paid by the beneficiary or the amount that the beneficiary is willing to pay. When that happens, that particular innovation or the service or the product cannot be taken to the society to address the needs of the society. So the government has to involve in delivering this particular product or the service. So we consider the role of the government is as to respond to the market failures. Now, when we look at the voluntary sector, or we call the not-for-profit sector, traditionally we had assigned a role as engaging individuals in an action to achieve social impact. When both private sector and the public sector are failed to address the needs of the society, so voluntary sector or the not-for-profit sector came into play in order to address those needs. So that is how the traditional roles had been defined. But after 1980s, we have seen that large number of policy changes are taken place and large number of trends are taken place, social trends, political trends, economic trends. Now, all these trends have given rise to a change of the defined roles in the economy. Now, this has created some sort of a space where it provides a fertile ground for the emergence of social entrepreneurship. How? It has happened through blurring the boundaries of the sectors that I explained in the previous slide. You could see that public sector, private sector, voluntary sector are no more isolated, right? For example, now the public sector is looking for efficiency-driven processes, and they have kept a higher reliance on the private sector organizations when it comes to service delivery. And also they believe in the not-for-profit sector as well. Rather the bureaucratic role of the governments, now the government's attitudes and the policy agendas are changing, and more citizen-centered, private sector-oriented policies are being developed. Now, that is some sort of a political change. So those are the changes in the political arena. On the other hand, we can see that private sector businesses, now they are getting into the service delivery, right? So they are also trying to provide the services like education, which were previously supposed to be delivered by, or traditionally expected to be delivered by the public sector. On the other hand, we can see the not-for-profit sector cannot anymore stand alone, isolated manner, because now we see that they have to be accountable to their stakeholders. And it is an era that they have to take the legitimacy among the stakeholders. So they have to be accountable. So that demands for higher sustainability, and also the demands for the accountability in their operations. Now, because of these different trends, we have seen that the three sectors have come together. No more isolated behaviors. And this situation has given rise to the emergence of social entrepreneurship. That is why I said social entrepreneurship can occur at any of these three sectors. At the same time, it can occur at the nexus between these three sectors. Or it could occur in between two of the sectors as well. If that is the case, what is social entrepreneurship? Right, here we go. Right, I would like to define social entrepreneurship for the purpose of this lecture, which is specifically looking at the public administrative or the public policy delivery. Because of that, I would like to define it as the practice of responding to market failures with transformative, financially sustainable innovations aimed at solving social problems. Right. Now, since we are trying to identify the policy mechanisms and each one of our roles, It is better for us to dig little bit more into the details on this definition. In that way, we can really define our responsibilities and the tasks to be done in order to develop an entrepreneurial ecosystem needed by the social entrepreneurial initiatives. So, market failure. As I mentioned earlier, the beauty of social enterprise lies on this key element. Because when it comes to the traditional entrepreneurship or the commercial entrepreneurship, we know that the entrepreneurial value proposition is generally targeted at a market that can really pay for the particular innovation, and the profit generated by selling the innovation can actually give a higher substantial level of upside to the investors. But when it comes to the social entrepreneurship, the social entrepreneurial value proposition is targeted at an underserved, often neglected, highly disadvantaged population who cannot actually pay for the particular innovation and who cannot access to that innovation and who doesn't have the needed resources and the political clout to access that resource. While taking such kind of a substantial role, social entrepreneurship is trying to address such social issues in an innovative way. Now, this innovative approach is transformative. How the transformation takes place? Transformative innovation means actually they are change agents of the society. So what could happen is that the initial status of the beneficiaries would be transformed into a completely different level and to a framework after receiving these services. That is why we call that social exclusion is eroded. So this certain social entrepreneurial initiatives are addressing such bigger challenges: income inequality, gender inequality, social exclusion, homelessness, disability. Such kind of bigger issues, not only them, but also climate issues, are being addressed by social entrepreneurial initiatives. And when it comes to this transformative capacity of the innovation, it needs to be sustainable. So social entrepreneurial initiatives are not purely depending on donations. No, that is another beauty of this. They have their own funding capacity. They have their own funding mechanism. They are self-sufficient. So having that capacity, financial sustainability and the resource sustainability is really important to have a transformative effect of a particular innovation. Otherwise, this transformative effect won't take place. So that is what is social entrepreneurship is all about. So it is an entrepreneurial approach to address social challenges through transformative mechanisms, while also ensuring the financial sustainability. And that is what it really distinguishes from other sort of practices, right? With that understanding, let's try to identify why social entrepreneurship is important. During the previous discussion or explanations, you may have already found answers to this question, but I would like to talk about this a little bit more in a more specific way. Now, if we are to develop social policies, and if we are to provide evidence-based research support to social policy delivery, then we need to know how social entrepreneurship supports the government policy implementation, right? One way to do, or one way of supporting the government policy delivery or the public policy delivery is leveraging public and private resources. When social entrepreneurs take the responsibility to address the social issue or social challenge when the governments or the public sector institutions and the private sector institutions cannot accomplish that. What happens is that it frees amount of tax gathered by the government, so that government can redirect that savings for another course of action. In that way, social entrepreneurship initiatives supports government's public policy delivery. Another way that social entrepreneurial initiatives are not just stand-alone mechanisms, or they are not just individual persons' initiative, but also the current understanding is co-creation with stakeholders. So we see that when the social entrepreneurial initiatives or the solutions are introduced to the society, it brings a lot of resources to the innovation system of a country or an economy. When you say innovation system, it includes skills, capacities, entrepreneurship, collaborations, networks, R&D, everything. So one initiative means thousands of resources, and it again brings financial resources plus non-financial resources as well. So it brings a lot of the needed resources to the innovation ecosystem, and that can have a spillover effect to make a fertile ground for the rest of the initiatives to be built upon them as well. And then these initiatives actually test and develop new solutions. In a minute, I'll be talking about a few of the examples to prove these main supportive approaches. And you will see that how social entrepreneurial initiatives test and develop new solutions. So as same as commercial entrepreneurship, it's not that easy. Social entrepreneurial or social entrepreneurs also need to engage in this experimentation, as Chamindika explained. So this experimentation process, it's not just introducing a product to the market or a service to the market. They have to go through this entrepreneurial experimentation for a long time to realize a strong social impact. And this journey, this experimental journey, may open up so many other opportunities that we had not even seen or thought of. So that is another way for a government or a public administrator to identify new opportunities to serve the needy people in the community. And then finally, becomes a catalyst to diffuse innovations. If you take the disadvantaged community, especially the bottom of the pyramid market, for example, countries like India, poverty rate is very high. A lot of the frugal innovations are emerging from these markets. And we know that from research, a lot of the frugal innovations targeting at this bottom of the pyramid market communities are championed by social entrepreneurial initiatives and social entrepreneurs. Therefore, that helps the governments to effectively diffuse the innovations towards a community who had not previously access to those resources. So it is a catalyst of diffusing innovations in the society in that way. Right. Let me take a few examples. Right. This is from your beautiful country. My very first example, probably you might know about this already. Women Entrepreneur Social Networks of Brazil, you call it RME. RME is the world's largest and the first network supporting the women entrepreneurs. Ana Fontes created this in 2010. She wanted actually to create a blog about the fears, doubts, and difficulties of female entrepreneurs. But she soon understood that it's not something only inherited to her, but also to thousands of other women entrepreneurs in the society. So she created RME in 2017 to support the women entrepreneurs in the vulnerable situations, especially capacity building area, by training them in entrepreneurship. Let's see what are the outcomes of the social impact created by this great initiative. So by now, they have been able to train 242 multipliers, and as a result of that, more than 900 classes around Brazil, approximately in 370 cities in Brazil. They were able to have more other classes. And by now, more than 65,000 women have been benefited by this great initiative. And because of the trainings, the beneficiaries who have received these trainings are 64% of Black, and 50% of participants feel much more self-confident after the training. 25% of women return to invest in their professional career. And then 31% of them share their acquired knowledge with other women. See how the transformation works in the social entrepreneurial initiative. Isn't this beautiful? More to come, where it is today. A couple of days ago, I saw this in Forbes magazine. It was wonderful to read what she's doing. During the pandemic, she's been able to, RME has been able to collect more than 7.3 million US dollars to bolster their key projects. And also, now what they're going to do is to use that money to train more women entrepreneurs in next 24 months period. What would happen is they will be training more than 50,000 entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs. And wonderful to see that another 2 private sector organizations are supporting this initiative. Tech giant Google and also Santander. And at the end of this training, they are going to choose 180 businesses led by women every 3 months, and they will be receiving the seed capital and mentoring to start their business. How wonderful it is this. In my explanation previously, I was talking about the key tasks or the key activities of social entrepreneurial process and how it supports the government. I said that they bring a lot of resources into the innovation system. By participating in this journey with Google and Santander, what they are trying to do is they are building a partnership, and with that they are bringing a lot of the financial and non-financial resources into the system. And survey results show that how the women entrepreneurs being transformed into a different kind of women. They have been able to share their knowledge with many more other women as well. That is the transformation, the sustainable change that they are creating in the society. Let's have another look. Luta Pelapes, Fight for Peace. This is another example that I would like to take here. And this was found in 2000. It was a project. And what they are trying to do is actually they are targeting the affected parties or the communities we call favelas in Rio de Janeiro. And in these areas, the people are highly prone to have crimes. So they are high risk young, and they consider these innocent young people and try to provide this youth with leadership training. In addition to the leadership training, attitudinal change is made through involvement in boxing, in martial arts. And they try to support the young people living in violence-affected communities in these favelas in Rio de Janeiro. And currently, it has been able to be a world-famous fashion brand called Luta, recently acquired by Reebok as well. And that the surplus that they generate is now 50% is reinvested in the communities to support the affected or the violence affected communities. That is to support the youth, right? You know about Roberto Custodia, the Brazilian champion, boxing champion. He was able to realize his dreams because of Fight for Peace project. When his father died or murdered violently, he really wanted to take even the justice into his hand. But because of this particular project, he could divert his anger and the negative emotions and release that onto a boxing punch ball. And with that, he was concentrating on something else against the violence. It stopped creating violence anymore. His attitudes were changed. And today he is your champion. And he's a coach as well. And he is supporting and guiding thousands of other boxing players in the country as well. That is the transformation. This is something that sometimes governments fail to fulfill. And see how social entrepreneurial initiatives accomplish that. Another example. Again, I wanted to tell you that social entrepreneurship cannot be defined by the organizational form. Now, what I'm going to talk about now is a private organization who was successful in creating a school for kids in Bahia, so Marau Peninsula. So Lagoa do Casande. You must be knowing about this better than me. It is a resort, a private resort, but their social responsibility is exemplary, right? So it is a beach resort with 14 bungalows, private entity. And then, so they have been able to understand the sad stories of the Northeast community of the country. And they are really struggling to have quality education and to develop their literacy. So this particular private organization was able to recognize this, and they were able to establish Marama Escola in 2017. And they are trying to provide innovative education that helps to create opportunities where they live. We know that world's 5th largest economy, highly populated. And this particular organization has really understood the repercussions of that, because they don't want their community to reach to the highly dense cities, but instead regional, to join with the regional development. So they try to promote the community development. They try to teach the kids in an innovative way and to develop their skills to deliver the service in a way that is able to deliver the services to their surrounding community. Community development, right? Now I am a little bit moving away from Brazil and would like to bring another example to summarize what I've been talking about. One World Pay Project, play anywhere, everywhere. So that is their motto. You may have already heard about this. So this is a for-profit certified B Corporation, started as One World Football by Tim. Now, Tim was watching the TV and he saw that there was the news footage talking about a young kid who was injured during play. What happened was that this kid got injured because of the trash ball that they were using to play. They didn't have a proper ball to play with, but instead they had twine, a ball with trash and then combined with twine. But that was not something durable and not a safer ball to play with. So this kid got injured. He was shocked to see that the people in Sudan are facing this difficulty. kids are the future of us, and they are facing this difficulty. So he was spending few days to sketch and design a bowl for these kind of the kids in the refugee camp. So he was successful, and he came up with the pop foam bowl, but he didn't have funds to take off this particular project off the ground. So he talked to one of his friends called Sting. Sting is a world famous entertainer. Sometimes if I say Gordon Matthew, you might be knowing about this musician. But he said, you do it, I'll pay for it. How nice people are there. And as a result of that, so One World Play Project started and named as One World Project because Sting's song is there, One World, Not Three. So as a gratitude to that sponsorship, so Tim named the project as One World Play. So their mission is to bring the transformative power of play to youth living in disadvantaged communities around the world. By now, as far as I can remember, in 2015, they were able to sell 1.5 million balls around the world with the support of Chevrolet. Chevrolet was the founder, sponsor of this project. And by now, they are not just producing balls only to the boys, but also they have taken attempts to resolve the disparities among the gender. So they are trying to bring the play back by the females or the little girls as well. So they have designed large number of projects to support these young kids. So this is the beauty of social entrepreneurship. So that's why I say they address the market failure in a transformative manner through a sustainable financial mechanism. Right. I hope now you have understanding about what social entrepreneurship is all about. So let me pay your attention to a very important quote. At the end of this discussion of what social entrepreneurship is, what I would say is, what you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others. So social entrepreneurship is all about that. As academics and public administrative officers, those who are in the audience, and as industry specialists, those who are in the audience, what we are supposed to do also the same. So how can we support the social entrepreneurship initiatives then? From my perspective today, what I am proposing is to build an innovation ecosystem. So I am calling for actions to build an innovation ecosystem that can support the social entrepreneurial initiatives around the world. So what is an innovation ecosystem? Ecosystem includes all the actors, activities, institutions, and the relations among these different actors, players. They may be complementary or the substitute relationship, but all encompassing. And beauty of that is that all these resources, actors, activities, relationships, institutions are essential to have an innovative performance by the social entrepreneurial initiatives and the organizations. So it's how can we develop such kind of successful ecosystem? So what is our role? I would like to bring your attention to one of the specific quotes that Australian Productivity Commission report had quoted. Actually, this was a quote from one of the former Prime Ministers of Australia, Ravin Rudd. And in 2008, in one of his speeches, he was telling, policy design and policy evaluation should be driven by analysis of all the available options and not by ideology. We are interested in facts, not facts. I would like to reflect on the same when I am proposing to build an innovation ecosystem and defining what our specific roles are in this particular task. So, if we are to contribute to the effective delivery of public policy, we really need to be able to provide the support to policy design and policy evaluation with evidence-based research as academics. So, we are in the evidence age. When it comes to public policy and management, we have seen that evidence matters. So public policy is supposed to be informed by the evidence. So as academics, the researchers and universities, we have a bigger role to play in this activity because we are the main players in this ecosystem who create the knowledge. We create the knowledge and we share this knowledge, and that knowledge is evidence-based knowledge, and that should be able to guide the social policy of a government. So how are we going to do this, right? That is through impactful research evidence. So it could be quantitative evidence, it may be qualitative evidence, it may be descriptive evidence, which are defining expert opinions and anecdotes. Or maybe it is something related to the existing evidence. Even a literature review informs the policy. So every single effort is very important. So what I'm trying to tell you is that we don't need to aim too high if we really want to start this journey. We really need to aim high, but to begin with, we can even start this task from a simple literature review because that becomes evidence. And also experimental evidence, especially because government interventions have to be evaluated. Social entrepreneurial initiatives have to be evaluated. Right. So what sort of impactful research that we can do in social entrepreneurship and public policy domain? I know that there may be a lot of the PhD students are observing this page or listening to this page, and there may be master students who are thinking of future research areas in this arena. I would like to just talk about something around this as well. Now, for example, how our research could inform policy. Say, for example, if we can investigate into the nature and the structure of the organizations who are engaging in the social entrepreneurial initiatives, what we will be investigating into would be the strategy and the structure and their approach to address the social challenge. So what it tells, on the other hand, is actually how the structures and the strategies work together. And that is something really important for governments to focus on when they are designing the policies. Because when we say strategy, structure, it again talks about the capabilities of the organization. And these capabilities are the ones which really drive the abilities. And those abilities are the ones finally will create the outcomes and the outputs. So in order to evaluate the organizations, this evidence is important. So you can concentrate your research on these particular areas. Another area that we can think of is context. Context, it's very important. Brazilian context is completely different to the Australian context and to that of Europe and that of US. So the context specificity cannot be forgotten easily. Even within Brazil, there can be so much of differences when it comes to social entrepreneurial initiative implementation. So how context influence in decision making? And also, for example, when the investors are trying to evaluate the social entrepreneurial initiatives for the funding purpose, they need to know whether this particular initiative is demanded by the particular context, or is it something different to another context, or is it a general problem, or is it a worldwide problem. Knowing that is really important. So context plays a significant role in defining the success or determining the success of an initiative. And if we can inform the national level research by investigating into the context variables, and that could finally even generate and enable the international level policy as well. So not only the national level policy, but also the international policy can be designed effectively. Another area that we can look at is impact. Impact measurement, performance measurement is a very focal topic these days in social entrepreneurship. At the same time, public policy, this is very, towards public policy also, this is very important, because governments wants to identify the initiatives which are having high impact, the organizations which can create high impact in the society. But we know that social entrepreneurs do not have specific ways of measuring social impact. They don't have tools. There are confusions and argument, disagreements around the dimensions to be incorporated into the measurements. Now, because of these things, if we as researchers can develop performance measurements, if we can develop performance and impact measurement, outcome measurements for social entrepreneurial initiatives, that will again guide the social policy, and not only social policy, but also the industry fund handling as well. So it's a big support to the social finance handling organizations to measure the effectiveness of the policies that they have implemented. And then when it comes to the government policy delivery, it is very important for us to evaluate the programs developed by the governments. So program evaluation is a very important matter to be considered. So we can do that. We can effectively contribute to this. Program evaluation will effectively support the government policy delivery, because they can see whether or to what extent the intervention is effective or not. In that way, effective resource utilization can be determined. Where to direct the resources, where not to direct the resources can easily be determined. So that is why we need to have evidence-based research targeting high impact. As universities, academics, research institutes, another thing that we can do is developing next generation social entrepreneurs. We at Swinburne University of Technology in Australia have a dedicated research center for social impact. And we have a social startup studio. So our Center for Social Impact is one of the 3 biggest centers in the country, and we have a specific research focus. So our research is aimed at social and community innovation, enterprise for social goals, measuring and communicating social impact, social investment, and philanthropy. And Center for Social Impact is closely working with the state governments and also the federal government. So as a university, the research center is very collaborative and supportive with the government initiatives and supporting the effective public delivery as well. And our social startup studio is supporting the next generation social entrepreneurs. So those who are having an interest to come into the social entrepreneurial field, and also people who have already got an idea can get the benefits of the social startup studio. It works like an incubator. Not only that, but also we have Center for Social Impact has a degree program called a postgraduate degree, Master of Social Impact. So like this way, we can develop initiatives to support the government policy delivery and management process. Right. Next. And then UK government is another example. UK has the most vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystem for social enterprise, as you have heard about. Specifically, specific examples like creation of Office of the Third Sector and Social Enterprise Action Plan in 2006. These are very impressive activities that the government has taken to implement. With that, the sector gets a very strong recognition across the departments and a highly evidence-based decision-making culture, and also effective finance delivery mechanism can be developed. And they have a very strong social financing mechanism system within the UK. For example, the Bridges Social Impact Bond Fund established in 2013. So that is not fully government, but actually they are in partner with the private sector, public sector. That is what I really wanted to emphasize here. Government alone cannot do the things, but we need the support from other entities. That's the beauty of an ecosystem. And that's what I am proposing here today as well. And Singaporean social enterprise sector is a very strong another example to talk about the ecosystem that they have built up. Home Care is a social enterprise fund. Social Enterprise Association maintains all the networking, collaboration, and awareness building. In a very recent evaluation project that I was a member of that research team, we understood that in Australia also there is, in some situations, there is limited understanding and awareness about social entrepreneurship, and that can hamper the development of the sector. In Singapore, there is a dedicated entity to build the awareness. And Asia Center for Social Entrepreneurship and Philanthropy is, in conjunction with National University of Singapore, is contributing to the research and development in the field. And Social Enterprise Hub of Singapore are working as the accelerators and the incubators. And then Singapore Center for Social Enterprise is the main coordinating body and the government body supporting the social enterprise sector. And they have organized award ceremonies, things like that, as the competitions as well. See, so it addresses all those different players in all those categories in an innovation ecosystem. Right, now that is the public, public administrator role and the academic role. What about the industry? Do you also have a role to play? Of course, yes. What you can do? There are so many things that you can do. I'll just talk a few things. Becoming an investor for the sector. One of the biggest issues in this particular field is that lack of finance, because social ventures, as I mentioned earlier, that their value proposition is targeted at an underserved, neglected, highly disadvantaged population who have no access to the resources and who do not have the affordability. So this is something risky. So acquiring finance is challenging. So, but we invite the industry to be an investor. UK is a clear example. As I said, within this vibrant ecosystem, there are a large number of private investors coming into the play to support the social entrepreneurial initiatives within the country. And one example is Big Society Capital. This was established in 2012 as a private company. This is what I really wanted to highlight. And they use the dormant accounts of money and distribute this money among the finance intermediaries, but according to the directions provided by the government. So in partnership with government, private sector can work nicely to support and build the ecosystem. And Bridges Fund Management, another private market investor, and they established this fund in 2009, and they provide the quasi-equity and operational support to social enterprises. Right. And the last example in relation to the industry that I wanted to give is accelerators and incubators, again from the most vibrant ecosystem, UK. Hatch Impact is a specific or dedicated incubator to support the social entrepreneurial initiatives. And they provide peer learning environment, co-designing opportunities with social entrepreneurs, financing and other coaching facilities, and then the legal services as well. Right, these are some of the opportunities that you could have. The last example, so that is social enterprises by themselves has a role to play. My last example is from Australia. This is called White Box Social Enterprise. It is working as a mini ecosystem. It is wonderful to see what they are doing. White Box Enterprises Australia. I was so fortunate to do their very first year evaluation. I was a member of that team, project evaluation team. And it is wonderful to see what they are doing. They are following a strategy called ecosystem growth strategy. And within this strategy, what they have is they have their own social enterprises walking in a blue ocean, right? So they have 3 by now, within very first year, they've been able to establish 3 social enterprises owned by themselves: Hotel Housekeeping, Spring Services Group, Australian Spatial Analytics. Each of them has their own specific defined value proposition, highly unique to themselves. On the other hand, they are supporting another set of social enterprises not owned by them. They are sharing their experience and knowledge and coaching and guiding another group of social enterprises in the society. So Jigsaw, Saving Studio, Battery, these 3 are not owned by this particular social enterprise, but they are private entities. So they are supporting them as well. And not only that, but also they are working closely with the government and so many other private sector and not-for-profit sector partners when they are delivering these services. And now, in order to address the problem of social financing, they've been able to make a proposal to the government to introduce a new impact bond investment mechanism that is called payment by outcome. You may have heard about it. So that again calls for the government, public sector, private sector intervention, and to go by a more robust and evidence-based decision-making system in finance delivery within the sector. So that is again contributing to the effective public policy delivery. So that's why I framed it as a mini ecosystem. So you don't need to be a giant organization, but by being a small entity, you can develop your ecosystem, and that will finally infuse into the national innovation system, into the ecosystem that I'm calling for everyone to build today. So finally, I would before I wind up this session, I would like to bring your attention to a very fundamental element that we discuss in entrepreneurship. There is a principle called corridor principle of opportunity. Entrepreneurship is all about opportunity identification, exploitation, evaluation, and exploitation. So this corridor principle of opportunity says that starting one venture will enable you to see more opportunities, sometimes that you have never even seen or thought of. So this is applicable not only to the entrepreneurs, but also to academics, industry specialists, public policy specialists, in every one of us around the globe as well. So it is the entrepreneur's role either to discover or to create this opportunity. So every one of us is an entrepreneur, no matter whether you are an academic or a policymaker or an industry specialist. What I understand is every one of us is an entrepreneur. So let's build this ecosystem together. By so doing, we will rise by lifting others. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Professor Chamindika. I was flabbergasted with joy while listening to your presentation, and I was actually sharing most of it with my social entrepreneur friends, and it was a jolt of enthusiasm. And thank you for all this beautiful work of amassing this, all these data on social entrepreneurship and turning it into knowledge that can be dispensed and can be shared. So thank you so very much. Eu agradeci a professora Chamindika pela aula dela, porque como empreendedor social, poder ver o papel da universidade na organização e disseminação desse conhecimento para ampliar e ainda a conexão com os órgãos públicos, é algo que traz bastante esperança para todos nós. Então, eu estava até compartilhando com a rede de empreendedores sociais da Choca, a qual eu pertenço. So, after such wonderful presentation, we have questions, and I'm going to ask our host to bring the questions to you, because he was organizing them. So there he is.
Thank you, Professor Nogueira, and thank you very much for the very insightful lecture. I'm going to make the questions that the colleagues that were watching the lecture have made during the lecture. So I will start with the question that comes from Mr. Paulo Mendes. He's asking, how can we encourage social entrepreneurship? And he adds, how is social entrepreneurship and social innovation linked? Please, Professor.
Can you read out the first question? I saw there are two questions there. What was the first question?
Sure. The first one is, how can we encourage social entrepreneurship? And the second one, yep, please.
Yes, let's talk about this a little bit. And actually, there are ample of ways of encouraging social entrepreneurship, and that's what I was actually explaining previously as well. So like, say for example, if we are an academic, so our research can itself contribute to the encouragement of social enterprise. Say for example, now I took the example of social startup studio run by Swinburne University. So what they're doing is actually, so we are welcoming people who have social entrepreneurial ideas, right? And then we try to give them the basic skills and knowledge. So that is a way to promote social entrepreneurship. At the same time, there is no one party that we can name who has this specific role. Every one of us can do this because the social challenges are experienced by every one of us. So schools can take the responsibility, and then also other institutions, education institutions in the economies, universities, research institutes, and every institution in the economy can take this responsibility. So first, building awareness, having competitions, right? Organizing a competition would be a wonderful way to promote social entrepreneurship, because, and organizing conferences, seminars to discuss this concept, and also to engage in debate so we can share the knowledge. Without knowledge, we cannot do anything. So even if it is a comparison, what we are trying to do is actually we are sharing knowledge. So creating small business models, social business models. So you can call for competition, you can initiate competitions among kids, school, at the school levels, at the university levels. So they can come up with small business models around social entrepreneurial issues. So they can be rewarded for their effort. And that will be one of the ways for us to develop the social entrepreneurial initiative from the childhood level. That is again a way to build the awareness. While building the awareness, on the other hand, we are developing the skills of the kids as well. So we are trying to make them entrepreneurs at the same, by actually involving them in the field. Actually, the universities should also do the same. It's not just preaching about social entrepreneurship, but actually allowing them to work with the social entrepreneurs, letting them and going them to see what entrepreneurs are actually doing. So that is very important. So in general practice of entrepreneurship, general commercial entrepreneurship, when we teach, what we do is we have something teaching methodology called experiential learning. So our teaching philosophy in entrepreneurship is guided by experiential learning and design thinking. So these can be introduced to the school levels. These can be introduced to the postgraduate level. These can be introduced to the undergraduate level, and giving them a chance to engage with the entrepreneurs and come up with the business model. First, observe, talk to them, and get that atmosphere or experience, get that positive vibes, and then we will change their attitudes. Without changing the attitudes, even if we have knowledge, we won't be able to move forward. So one of the ways to do this is organizing competitions, and then have introduced the courses to the school levels and to the university level. And then we can have in the community levels, we can create what do we call community projects, and letting them experience the outcomes of them. So in that way, we can promote social entrepreneurship from childhood level in the society and the community.
Thank you very much, Professor. I'll probably follow with the other question, if I may. It is from another colleague from the university here. It's from Miss Marisi. And she's asking, I'd like to do a question. So how to teach social entrepreneurship for teenagers? Do you have good examples about social entrepreneurship education in secondary schools?
Yes, I don't think that I have a very specific example comes to my mind, but I can remember when I was doing a review paper very recently about entrepreneurial education, I've seen that these teaching methodologies have been under the experiential learning teaching methodology. So these have been introduced to the school level. And so they are trying to see to what extent we can teach social entrepreneurship using experiential learning approach. Because traditionally, commercial entrepreneurship was taught using experiential learning. Whether the same thing is successful in the school setting as well. So that is one of the ways that they are doing, but I don't specifically get an example to give you at this moment. It doesn't come to my mind a specific name, no.
Fabulous.
Let's go to another question. Yes. So that one is from Mr. Rodrigo. and he is asking how to differentiate social entrepreneurship from NGOs in the examples given.
Yeah, good question. That's why I think this is a very good question that you raised, and that is something related to this fundamental confusion that we have seen in the literature and the practice as well. So non-governmental organizations, or we call NGOs, are organizations that are normally separate from the government, but most of the time we see that they like community organizations, and they are depending on the donations as well. Now, I said that earlier, social entrepreneurship cannot be defined by the organizational form. So NGO is a form of organization. But when you say social entrepreneurship, it is a process. It includes set of activities. So those activities are the ones I said, they have a transformative or entrepreneurial way of addressing social challenges with a social mission through a sustainable financial mechanism. If there is an NGO which fits into this definition, yes, that is social entrepreneurial. But if it doesn't have a sustainable financing mechanism, and if it just replicates something that they used to do, and it doesn't have a transformative effect created, then it won't be a social entrepreneurial initiative. So the key things that I say, they address a market failure, and their approach is transformative, and they have a sustainable mechanisms to get to that place. So if any initiative meets these criteria in basic way, regardless of the organizational form, I would say that is socially entrepreneurial.
Perfect. Let me give the word for Mr. Professor Nogueira. Please, Professor.
Thank you so very much, Juliano. Professor Chamindika, when would this be, where would social entrepreneurship then be positioned in relation to impact businesses and social businesses?
Yes. So your question is, how does it impact on social businesses?
No, actually, because I come very much from the NGO world, but then I lived that because of the professionalism and the organization. So some of the work done in some organizations generated income. So then we started to see the surge of social businesses and impact businesses, which are organizations that reinvest the money or they reinvest the profits on the continuation of the work also. How do you see the impact investment and the impact business ecosystem with social entrepreneurship?
Yes, I understand now. Thank you very much for that clarification. So social impact investors and impact businesses, so they have a very big role to play when it comes to developing financing mechanisms, right? So what we observe today is that there is a lack of, not in every ecosystems, but even in Australia, still this is a market that is growing. But when you specifically take countries like, in the regions like Europe and especially UK, we see that the sector itself has become a fertile ground to call for more and more social impact investors. And when there are so many coming into the economy, say private investors, and when there are more people, it creates competition, right? But when they are, because we observe that this is extremely risky in one hand, we see, because that's what I say, value proposition is targeted at a disadvantaged market, disadvantaged communities who cannot pay. So essentially the operation or the entrepreneurial activity is carrying some sort of a risk. So people are hesitating to invest in the market. But when they see that there are many other private investors, impact businesses have come into play, then they also see, right, we can also invest in it. So that the ecosystem itself promotes or welcome or stimulate the presence or the entry of many other impact investors. But this is not that popular in an infancy economy or in a sector which is currently developing. Like, for example, although Australia is a very developed country, social entrepreneurial initiatives are growing, but it is not that matured as same as UK. So there are impact investors, but not as same as growing in UK. So that happens. So that is why when the government, that's why I'm suggesting that when government intervenes and the federal government, state governments intervene into this process and go for a social impact bond, social investment or financing approaches like social impact bond. So it again encourages the rest of this impact investors in the community. And by doing so, we can infuse or welcome so many other impact investors into the economy. So that is a trend that we have to develop, which is not that easy, but as I mentioned earlier, we have to develop. But in UK, yes, it is very popular because there is a strong presence from the government, and the private sector also is very supportive of that. And with that, many other organizations come into play. So it's just like a perfect competitive market that we normally understand in economics.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
No.
Thank you very much, Juliano.
Just another little thing, Professor. A colleague is asking for your email address for being in touch. If you can put it in the chat if it is not a problem. Thank you very much. Very insightful. I like it very much. It was a pleasure for me. And sorry for the minor issues we had at the beginning. Sorry, Professor Nogueira.
Oh, please, you're wonderful. By the way, eu quero agradecer justamente ao Juliano Pellegrina por todo o suporte desse evento hoje. E esse homem traz um apoio para a gente incrível. Então, muitíssimo obrigado você também, Juliano. I was mentioning Juliano's work in giving us all the technical support and how he's wonderful at that, making us feel great. So, may I add just one thing? Because someone asked a question about youth, and Ashoka is developing here in Brazil a program of recognizing young social entrepreneurs, teenagers who are making amazing social changes in their areas, exactly because it was clear that schools were not teaching any other options to the students about career choices or jobs in the future. So they started to stimulate and look for youth role models to be able to inspire other youth. Because I believe, yes, it's very important for us to start putting these worlds together of the teenagers and the young social entrepreneurs so that they can have more choices for their professional lives in the future.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, and I wish everyone all the very best for an effective journey in this field. And thank you very much for having me. And it was a great honor and pleasure for me to be sharing my knowledge with you all. And thanks for asking for my email. I'm more than happy to help you and in any way that I can. So it is cweerakoon@swin.edu.au. I have just entered that onto the chat box, and feel free to share it with among your colleagues. And if I can be in any help to you, I'm more than happy to do that. As Swinburne University of Technology of Australia, we are very much happy to engage in any future collaboration, because in our strategic pillars, especially from our Faculty of Business and Law, I am serving Faculty of Business and Law as a lecturer in entrepreneurship and innovation. And one of the areas that we are actually, to be specific, our mission is to excel in all these key areas, that is making career ready graduates, and also our aspiration is to hold the leadership in research, in social impact. And also we have specifically identified 6 enablers, and one of them is partnerships. And so serving these kind of conferences in international universities and sharing our knowledge with them is also part and parcel of this mission as well. So thank you very much for inviting me to your conference, and I really appreciate what you all have been doing during this pandemic. It is really an impressive work, and that's why I said we rise by lifting others. So that's what actually you are doing today, and this will have lots of impacts in the future economy of the country as well. And I hope that will be realized to the maximum.
Thank you so very much, Professor Chamindika. Muito obrigado, Juliano. Muito obrigado a todos vocês que estiveram aqui. Aqui no chat está o e-mail da professora Chamindika. E muito obrigado a todos vocês hoje por estarem aqui com a gente. E continuamos aí, através da universidade, fomentando as nossas relações para levar o empreendedorismo social para o seu próximo passo. Que a gente possa aproveitar todas as incríveis soluções para justamente diminuir a desigualdade que existe aqui no Brasil. So thank you so very much, and for being up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
No problem.
Such grace. Thank you so very much.
No problem. Hopefully we will meet again.
Definitely. At least we will talk more.
Yeah, sure. Right. Okay.
All the best then. Thank you very much. Muito
No
obrigado
problem.
a todos.
Bye-bye.
Tchau, pessoal.
Bye.
Tchau, Juliano.
Tchau,
Paulo.
obrigado a todos. Thank you. Great pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thank you.